Well, hey, everybody, welcome to the Seeing Ability podcast, where we're having a conversation about folks in the world of people with disabilities. That means in some cases, we're going to be talking to adults who grew up with a disability, maybe parents who are raising kids with special needs, and a variety of people that are supporting this community. It could be folks in education, folks in nonprofits, folks in healthcare. And we're super glad you took the time to listen to us today. I'm Jim Littlefield Delnaris, your host, and I think you're really going to enjoy our guest today because she approaches this world from three different perspectives, and I think you're going to love some of her insights. The first is she is a person who grew up with a disability, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Second is she chose to devote her career to helping others and spent time in the classroom as a special ed educator. And then third, now she stepped away from that role and is helping look at the entire needs of the family as a counselor still based in the school system. So my guest, Sally Travis, is going to have some unique perspectives to share with you today. Sally, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, first, as you know, we like to get to know our guest on a little bit of a personal level. So I'm going to hit you with the Fast Four. Number one, the Fast Four is brought to us by the folks at Reliable Tech Help. So if you have tech needs, reach out to Reliable Tech Help at 502-797-7399 or reliabletechhelp.com, tech with a K, not a CH. The first question is, what is your favorite junk food?
Ice cream.
Ice cream. What about favorite streaming show or TV show?
I am a crime junkie, so anything crime courtroom related, I'm watching it. Whether
crime is the thing these days. I love it.
Yes.
What about if we were to look at your playlist? What kind of songs would we find? Give us a song.
Oh gosh, that's a loaded question. You could hear anything from Metallica to Nelly to the Beach Boys. Yeah, I'm a well-rounded music lover. So
that's a diverse list. I love that. Okay, and then last but not least, if we were to whisk you away today to a favorite vacation destination anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Probably the Dominican.
The Dominican. Okay. Well, again, thank you for being here today and sharing your insights and your story.
Yeah.
I want to start in childhood because, as we said, you have the perspective of growing up as a person with a disability. So tell us a little bit about your diagnosis and when you were, say, elementary school, your teenage years, what are some of the things you were challenged with as a kid?
Well, I have a mild case of cerebral palsy, right-sided hemiplegia, so mostly right-sided affected. I, growing up as a kid, I noticed that I walk different than others. I may have a little bit of a limp at times, even still today. I did whatever I could to still keep up with my twin sister, keep up with my cousins, my friends, whatever that may be. It may take me a little bit longer. And I may complain about it after we're done, just because it was so exhausting. And, in the school setting, I still kind of did whatever I could. There were some things, like some PE activities and whatnot in elementary school that I may have just, tried and just get either not really given up on, but just decided, yeah, that's not safe for me to do. Teenage years, I ran with the best of them, did, anything and everything I could. So I didn't let it stop me. So, and nobody was going to let me give up on anything, even if I said I wanted to. So,
and luckily, I know, at least in my case, most of the stuff I did in my teenage years was before cell phones. So there's little evidence of it.
Yeah, I got the cell phone stuff in high school. So yeah, there wasn't even a whole lot of that because most of it was flip phones or, Nokias where you're playing, Snake and you're not taking pictures and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So
So part of our conversation is always keys to success. So when you think about either your parents or adults that
Mhm.
were influential in those early years, when you were struggling, what are some of the things they did to help you succeed looking back, having the value of being able to look back now?
I would say, my parents and other family members, um, definitely, they didn't, they weren't going to let me do anything dangerous to, hurt myself, but they were going to let me try what I wanted to. Um, in the school setting, my first, fourth, and fifth grade teacher, I learned very quickly I was not allowed to say the words I can't in her classroom. And that kind of, stuck with me. And I continue to, even when things get tough, I'm like, I'm not going to say I can't do that. I'll say maybe not yet. I'll try again later or maybe tomorrow.
So something that's pretty profound. The idea that like instilling in a child or a young person early on, you might have a challenge to something, but you shouldn't think I can't do it. Maybe you have to do it
Mhm.
differently. It's a really big idea. So that
Right.
it's like you said, and that wasn't just helpful then, you use it today.
Mhm.
I love that. I love that. And when if you're talking to parents, what do you think are the biggest things they could do to help their kids when they do see them struggle?
Um, Teach them to advocate for themselves, to say, hey, I need help with this, or let me try it first and then you can help me. Teach them to advocate for themselves, but to also know that there are going to be limits to possibly what they can and can't do by themselves, and that's okay.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Teach them. And like you said, always let them do things, but obviously within a safe range.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah. There's always going to be boundaries, and there should be.
So as you got a little older, you decided you wanted to choose for your career, kind of giving back to others. Tell us a little bit about that journey, how you ended up eventually in the classroom.
I started my career journey, wanting to be a physical therapist, thanks to um, my physical therapist at the kids center, and knowing that was, I wanted to be able to give back just like they helped me. I did realize after a while that wasn't what was best for me. Took some time away from school and actually went back and spoke to my first, fourth, and fifth grade teacher and was like, hey, this happened. I don't know what else to do. And she was like, you should go be a teacher. And I was like, I can't do that. I don't have the patience for it. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, wait a minute. I should go use those PT skills that I worked so hard for, and become a special ed teacher, specifically moderate severe disabilities, because I could kind of do both. I was definitely still helping kids. I was still kind of, using that PT knowledge, but I was helping them learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before we get into the special ed classroom, you mentioned the
Mhm.
Kids Center. Some of our listeners aren't from here. So you and I are both in Kentucky, in Louisville.
Mhm.
Uh, Tell us about those therapists that you work with. Like what I'm sure therapy was super fun. You look forward to it all the time, right? and,
That's a no.
and
Yeah.
what did they
So
do? What did they do looking back to help you, those therapists? Because it seems like you've got a pretty close relationship with them, even years later.
yeah, they they were both during the, I'd say, 8 years I was a rather active member, going to the kids center for therapy once, twice a week. I don't even remember how many times. um they, encouraged me when things got hard. They made it fun, learning to walk, climb stairs, learning how to run safely, and just the overall stretching or things that I was going to need to do, to continue to be able to move on my own. um, without much adaptation other than a brace that I wore on my right leg. So
What a great compliment to think that even though it was tough and they made it fun and they pushed you, they had such an impact on you that you said, "Hey, I think I want to do this when I grow up." That's pretty profound.
Yeah.
So let's talk about now the transition to the classroom. I think the view of a special ed teacher is very unique because you mentioned you might have gone to therapy once or twice a week. On average, how many hours a week are you spending with kids in your classroom when you're a special ed teacher?
Oh, gee. On average, I mean, sit there in my classroom 6.5 hours a day.
5 days
Those
a week,
kids were on average. I mean, they would go with same age peers to lunch, special area, sometimes to morning meeting. It would just depend on the student. And but I mean, they were with me the majority of the day.
Yeah. So that front row seat, you got to see a lot of different kids, probably a variety of diagnosis and ability levels, and got to see some similar challenges they faced, some similar ways they navigated those. Probably could see maybe from a front row seat the impact of the relationship with their parents and what they did or didn't do. If you could tell us, what are some of the keys to success when you saw kids really be able to thrive in that environment?
And it was nice for me because I wasn't like a regular teacher. I actually could see kids I had them multiple years in a row. So I was able to really track that growth. A lot of that success came from the team partnership between myself, the parent, the student, any other school therapies that the student may have had, whether it be OT, PT, speech, vision, O&M, which is orientation of ability. We all had to work together. If it weren't for us figuring out the plan to make that student see success, it would have been a whole lot harder because we all have different lenses. No one person can do it alone. I know that from just from my own upbringing, you can't do it by yourself. So
Yeah, so it sounds like that communication and that teamwork spirit was really key for you.
yes.
Absolutely. One of the topics that comes up a lot in parenting in general, but especially in the world of parenting a kid with special needs, is finding that right balance of expectations. You've kind of got the spectrum of the old helicopter parent that like wants to wrap their kid in bubble wrap and never have them have a hardship. And maybe the other end is throw them into the deep end and see how they can figure it out. And then you compound that with parents, grandparents, others seeing a child who maybe struggles quite a bit physically, intellectually, and they're thinking, maybe I need to step in and help them. Where have you seen that balance of like finding the right level of expectations for kids so they can grow and stretch? And how have you seen that play out, maybe even for some of the kids that you worked with?
I actually, there were quite a few times that I told my own story, both to a set of parents in an IEP meeting, in a parent teacher conference, and to students. I needed them to see that you can do hard things. You can, and it's to let parents know that it's okay to let them fail. That, we're going to all work together to pick them back up and try again. Not everything's going to work the first time around. Not every lesson, not every, accommodation we may make, it's trial and error.
I love what you said. It's okay to let them fail. So basically, even though you might be tempted to step in, being able to kind of hold back and let them learn from failure. Can you think of any examples, like, kids you worked with where you kind of saw that play out? Like, how would that play out in the school setting?
Kids who may struggle with handwriting, letting them try to write on their own, and seeing that even though, yeah, it might be hard, okay, let's take a step back and let's let them try to trace over a highlighter. Let them do hand over hand where, we're guiding them. In all of those aspects, we have to see what they truly can do on their own first before we can set a goal for them to move forward.
Yeah. So seeing what they can do, I think sometimes it's like maybe people assume too fast they won't be able to do something and then don't let them try. I guess that's what I hear you saying is like, see
Yes.
what they can do first.
Mhm.
Fantastic. You threw in a 3-letter word there, which a lot of our listeners probably know, but some don't, the IEP. And that was
Mhm.
something I was going to talk to you about. Individual education plans. A lot of kids end up needing those in the school setting. And I know that's a world for parents raising kids with special needs, especially if their kid has any kind of learning difference. They're probably going to enter or physical difference in many cases. They might enter the world of IEPs, individual education plans. We don't want to use too much jargon. You've probably seen a lot of those meetings and sat through them and again, have that unique perspective, being a person with a disability, having been a teacher, and now being a counselor, looking at the needs of the whole family. What do you think? I know for some people, probably those meetings go really well. And for others, they're a source of a lot of stress, maybe even conflict and trying to figure out how to work, how you described it so beautifully in that team setting. What would be your advice? Give me some insights of what you've seen, maybe good, bad, and ugly in the world of IEPs. And then after that, kind of what's your advice to successfully navigate those?
Well, I mean, I've been in meetings where, it takes us weeks to get, a parent on the phone, um, because they're busy, they're working, which is 100% understandable. We have parents that are requesting meetings, um, and that may or may not go well. Maybe for something tiny, like, hey, I want to change, you know, um, a goal, or I want to add something, or they're coming to the table because they have concerns about their student. Um, you know, and I always try to frame meetings with praise of anything. And I've, from a counselor perspective, tell teachers to make sure, that they hear the positive. There is something positive in the world of, your student's life, no matter who's meeting with you.
And so,
Um,
and where have you seen when those meetings break down? What do you think is probably the biggest problem that arises?
Most of the time it's from my perspective, from a lack of communication, lack of understanding on both sides of the table, from the education side or the parent side. Both we're not truly understanding what the other is asking. Um, and just making sure, kind of going back to my time, what I mentioned in the classroom, communication. Make sure you're communicating. Parents, talk to your teachers, talk to the counselor, talk to your therapist, even your outside therapists. We have means of communicating and adding them into the fold of, that team approach.
So when you've seen it work really well, when you were part of meetings that really did feel like that team environment, what do you think are some of the key ingredients that contributed to that success?
um, Parents seeing the success in their child, and parents wanting more, um, wanting to bring in whatever resources they can, whether it be something the school provides, something they provide on their own, um, just really being open to trying things. That's where I see the most success. Staying positive, and knowing that everybody is in this together.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really profound. And what are, you mentioned a lot about communication. What are some of the things that
Mhm.
you would try to do to maybe even lay the foundation prior to those meetings?
From a classroom teacher perspective.
Yeah.
From a classroom teacher's perspective, I did my best to, you know, always communicate with parents as to what we were working on in the classroom, where their students were on their specific goals, kind of giving them that feedback before the meeting. So they had an idea of what, we were going to discuss.
Hmm. What do you think, your experience being a person with cerebral palsy and your experience in both the classroom and the counselor, what has it taught you about yourself?
I'm resilient, um, and which is another quality that I like to, instill in all of the families in my current school building, disability or not, um, that, I can do hard things. I can, I can move past things that are difficult. I can, find new ways to communicate both my own feelings um and my own emotions, but then also help to teach students and parents that as well.
And I think it's no coincidence that earlier we talked about not being able to say I can't, and
Hmm.
you just said I can do hard things. So it's
Hmm.
interesting to see how that earlier foundation of that mindset contributed to you saying, hey, I can do hard stuff. Might have to figure
Yeah.
out a way to do it, might be difficult, but like you probably, can you think of a time where you surprised even yourself with something you were able to do, but maybe initially you were pretty freaked out and thought you weren't able to do?
Yeah, one specific thing comes to mind, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the education world. I worked with a personal trainer for a while, and um my balance is not the best. And he wanted me to do squats on an unstable like balance board. And I was like, I can't do that without holding on to something. He was like, yeah, you can. And I thought, had to think to myself that, I I can try. I wasn't ready to say I could specifically do that. I did. I got probably 4 or 5 squats in before I gave up and was like, nope, okay, I'm done for today. Let's try again tomorrow.
And then how did it eventually turn out? Like as you developed and he kept probably pushing you, where did you end up?
I think the most I ever got done was 10. Um, it was just that was a lot of it was more of a mental thing for me, just having to concentrate so much on my balance and not falling over. So
Yeah, I love that. So what did that experience kind of, what did that teach you about yourself?
um that not to ever let anybody tell me I can't do something. I'm gonna try. Now, if I fall and make a fool of myself, that's fine. It is what it is. Um, but I'm gonna, it's worth trying it.
Yeah, and I don't think that philosophy being helpful is limited to the world of people with disabilities, right? I mean,
Oh
that's true
no.
for any person. That's really great. I love that. So typically, kind of to wrap things up, I always ask people if you were invited to kind of come in as the speaker for a group of young parents who are raising kids who are pretty young, but they're going to face a wide variety of disabilities. If you had to narrow it down to like 3 keys to success, tell us a little bit about what your 3 keys would be.
Find your village. Um, find those people that that you want behind you to support you in all walks of life. Um, and you want them to support your child. Um, Probably I would also say ask all the questions at every doctor's appointment, every whatever visit. Ask the questions. Um, you know, doctors, therapists, teachers, whatever. We're not mind readers, and we don't know what we don't know. So if there's something you think we need to know, make sure you tell us.
All right. And then that's two. What's
That,
your third?
Have fun with your child. Make it fun. Celebrate those successes. Um, and learn how to work through the failures.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. Well, Sally, thank you so much for being here today. Like I said, I think those three perspectives are really helpful in this journey. Now, if you're listening today and you could relate, you're probably nodding your head about some of the stuff that Sally was saying. We'd love for you to reach out. We'd love to hear your story. We'd love for you to go to the Facebook page and leave a comment on this episode and share the Facebook page with other folks that you think could really benefit. We're trying to connect to other educators, other parents. Maybe you're part of a mom's group. We'd love to get this podcast in the ears or hands of people that could really benefit from it. So we would love you to engage with that. Maybe you've got ideas for a future guest that we'd like to have on the podcast. Again, just visit us at the Facebook page. We want to hear from you. Sally, thank you so much for being here. Thanks everybody for listening.
Thanks.
We know you have a lot of choices when it comes to podcasts. Thanks for being here, and we'll see everybody next time.